You're listening to the Beyond Mommy Dearest podcast, where we talk about growing up with narcissistic moms, how it shapes your nervous system, your relationships, and your sense of self, and how to heal without shame. I'm your host, Nolani Pearl Hernandez. Today's episode is sponsored by plant-powered body care that actually works. Today's guest is Adriana, a narcissist abuse recovery coach, and the voice behind Let's Get Your Shift Together. Adriana helps survivors stop second guessing themselves, understand what actually happened to them, and rebuild a life that finally feels like their own. Her journey started with years of confusion, people pleasing, and chronic pain that no one can explain until she uncovered the connection between trauma, the body, and narcissistic abuse. Adriana, thank you so much for joining me today. I absolutely love the work that you're doing on your on Instagram. It's tell me what it is because I don't want to because I always read it as let shit. And that makes it and it cracks me up. So tell our listeners what your Instagram is.
Yeah, totally. Hey, Noelani, thanks so much for having me. Super
Yeah,
excited
yeah,
to have you
yeah,
to be here.
yeah.
My Instagram is Let's Get Your Shift Together. All
Yes.
one word, shift with an F.
With an F, not without it. All right.
Yes.
Well, and tell our listeners who may not know your work or may be new to it. Can you share what originally called you into supporting survivors of narcissistic abuse?
Yeah, so this is going to sound really random, but chronic pain.
Interesting. No,
Yes.
that's not random because we've been talking about this and how pain or how your nervous system deregulation or how autoimmune disorders, all those things are affected or caused by narcissistic abuse. So tell me a little bit more. How did you find this out?
Totally. So in 2015, I got my wisdom teeth removed, basic routine thing. And then it was just like a downward spiral of hell. So I ended up with, it was crazy. I ended up with migraines, TMJ dysfunction. I got carpal tunnel syndrome. I had to get surgery on one hand.
Oh my goodness.
Probably see my little scar somewhere.
Yeah, there I see it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wild. And this was like before age 30. And then, And then like I was in physio, doing acupuncture, like Botox for migraines, medical marijuana, all the things you can imagine.
Yeah.
And then in 2018, at the ripe old age of 30, I get shingles in my mouth.
Oh my God. It's like you're like talking about, okay, we'll talk about mine, but okay, so you get shingles in your mouth. Oh my God.
I'm sorry that happened to you too, apparently.
Yeah. Oh, well, I had shingles like all over my chest, but we'll talk about
it. Yeah, totally. And this was actually my second time getting shingles. I got it when I was like 23 on like my lower back.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
But in my mouth, oh my God, it was just like a whole shit show. It was the worst. Yeah. And then I was doing this like stupid jaw treatment to like realign my face and maybe I wouldn't have migraines anymore.
Right.
It was bullshit, which we'll get to that. And basically I ended up with something called trigeminal neuralgia from the mouth shingles. It's nicknamed suicide disease because that's how painful it is. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm 30 at the time. I'm telling my husband, look, like I'm going to give you another 10 years before you're probably going to have to call yourself a widower because if 30 is this bad, I am terrified of what aging has in store, right? Like it's going to be a disaster. And like, I'm already like in agony every single day. Like I can't, I don't know how much longer I can do this for.
Right.
And so then it was January of 2019. I'm, doom scrolling on Facebook, minding my own business. And the algorithm had just started getting kind of creepy at that point. Where it, like new things.
Yes.
And I get this ad for an app called Curable. And it's marketed for people with chronic pain. And it says like, this app can take away your pain. I'm completely desperate because I've tried absolutely everything. I'm assuming this app is maybe going to like hypnotize me into thinking I'm not in pain or like something stupid like that. And impulsively, I buy a 1-year subscription for it. I open it up And immediately I'm pissed off because it's telling me about
Yes. Yeah.
It's telling me about how chronic pain is because of repressed emotions from childhood trauma.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, well, I know my mom's a narcissist, but I don't have childhood trauma. I don't have repressed emotions. I don't have emotions.
Right.
So I like completely rejected this right away. And then, you know, I'm pissed off for 24 hours, but I'm still in pain. So at that point, the next day, I'm like, fuck it. Let's see. Humor me. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Right. So I start using the app. It's like, you know, actually helping me. In my first 2 weeks of using it, I had like a 20% reduction in my overall pain. Yeah.
Wow.
And I'll never forget this. Yeah. I'll never forget this. I was with my husband. We're at our old place in our kitchen. And I had my first 5 minutes of no pain. And I was literally like, am I going to look down and see my dead body? Like, did I die?
Right. What's going on?
I was so confused. Like, I've never had this like no pain. And it was just the weirdest thing. And of course, the pain came back a few minutes later. But I was like, okay, like, let's keep going. So I'm uncovering all this stuff about, you know, how this was actually childhood trauma. And I had to repress my emotions to stay safe from my now late narcissistic mother. And it just all made sense. And then within 4 months, I was pain-free. And and I was basically
that's amazing.
Like, and I was pretty much like, great. I have to tell the world about like, you know, how chronic pain and repressed emotions are a thing. And then I started Let's Get Your Shift Together in April of 2019. And then the more I started opening up, the more I started opening up about like having a narcissistic mother and how that caused me to repress my emotions and all that. Here we are, right? Like, so it's narcissistic abuse recovery, but we do cover the mind-body connection in the work that I do with my clients. So, because it's all connected.
Well, and that's a really interesting thing. My husband and I were talking about that because, you know, their chronic stress causes so many things. And so many studies have been done in regards to like people of color, the way that, you know, their ACEs, their adverse early childhood experiences, reduce their living, like their lifespan. And then if you throw in a narcissistic mom, I mean, I think about what it was like and how miserable I was before I stopped talking to my mom. And I know our listeners are probably going to be like tired of me saying this, but my husband really did save my life. He gave me the ability to say, no, fuck you. Like, I don't need to do this. Like, and that is a really, really big thing. And we were talking, you know, briefly about just the world kind of is in this whole like feeling that we've felt for a really long time in regards to narcissistic abuse. And what we're seeing is the conversation is becoming more popular to have it. That it is people understanding this trauma-informed workspace or trauma-informed therapy or trauma-informed coaching. And that's a really big thing because I think on the other side of it, which I hope is sooner rather than later, but on the other side of it, we're going to be a like better society if we can just get through this. Hopefully, fingers crossed, you know, from
we'll see how long it takes.
Right, exactly. Why do you believe that narcissistic abuse, especially from a parent, feels so uniquely destabilizing compared to any other form of trauma?
Totally, because your parents are supposed to be like your source of safety, right? So it's like, this is how you learn how to human, you know, this is where you learn about the world and all that. And so when you're learning that from someone who's like just such a psycho hose beast, for lack of a better term.
Yes, I love this. Okay. Yes, that's the best term. Yes.
Totally.
That's what it is.
Exactly. And like, you just learn like that you're awful. There's something fundamentally wrong with you. And like, you know, no one's going to ever love you or put up with your bullshit or whatever. And, you know, you kind of, when you're a kid, you have no choice, right? Like you have to trust your parents. And, you know, you're vulnerable. You're a sponge. You're absorbing the world. And so this is the foundation that you get in life. And then you go out into the world and you think like, okay, like, so this is what love is, because you literally don't know anything different.
anything different. And well, and the really interesting thing is you were talking about how when you first read about this intense, trauma that you experienced as a child, that you were like, whatever. I mean, I had the conversation yesterday with my husband. I was like, I don't remember a lot of my childhood.
Same.
And I was like, as I started reading about this information, what I realized was my childhood probably was really, really messed up. Like I remember my daughter being born, and that's pretty much like when my life began, because that was when I started the low contact with my mom, because I was like, I don't think that you're safe around to have my
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah.
And then, right. And then no contact came pretty quickly. Well, it took me a little while, but no contact in the last 11 years. And I have to say my life has been better as a result of it. It'll be 11 years in April.
Congrats.
Um, Thank you. And one of the things that I really went through was, and I went through it alone because nobody was really talking about it, right? And you have idiots like Mel Robbins and Oprah saying, hey, and yes, I did call them idiots, saying, hey, stop being a spoiled brat and talk to your mom. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Get your head out of your ass and learn about reality.
Right,
Idiots.
exactly. And so why is it so common for survivors to feel that intense shame when they need that boundary from their parent, or and for us, for our moms?
Yeah, because of idiots in the world like that, right? Because
Right.
it's the way I see it is like, if someone is that ignorant that they can't conceive of like, not everyone had the same childhood and the same mother.
Right.
You're either like an absolute moron, or you're an abuser yourself.
Yes, 100%. And the jury's still out, considering all the files haven't been released. So I won't make any assumptions. I won't make any accusations or anything, but I will say that, in one of our episodes with a friend of mine, Victoria, we were talking about Harlow's monkeys. And with Harlow's monkeys, there's like this whole psychological experience, our experiment, where they give a wire monkey with food and a wire monkey that has a terry cloth on it. And baby monkeys cling to that mother that has the terry cloth. And we've seen it like with Punch the Monkey. Everyone's losing their mind because, Punch's mom's a narc, like she's a narcissist. Let him go. But what we see is in human form is that we as human beings rather like cling to that cold wire monkey, are like our moms who like have no nurturing abilities, none of that stuff, just so that we can survive.
Yeah.
So how do you see that like showing up? I don't have any brothers or sisters, and I thank God every day for that, because they didn't have to deal with it.
Yep.
And I didn't have to compete against a golden child or be triangulated or any of that stuff. But when narcissism comes in the family system, how do you see this type of thing show up? This like clinging to the person who's the nurturing one because that attachment is for survival.
Right. Well, it's conditioning, right? It's hardwired into you. That trust is built in between a mother and a child. So there's literally, like I said before, there's no choice on the child's end, right? It's literally all they know. And so no matter how much logic you kind of throw at the situation as an adult, and you can see it's, once you like really understand narcissism, it's pretty black and white. These people are unsafe. But when you're in that bubble and you're the one who's been abused for that long, emotion overrides logic.
Yep. Every time. And that's a thing, right? Because we talk about teenagers. Teenagers are little emotion bubbles, right? Everywhere. We have two of them right now, and then our older kids. And so we they're fantastic. I love them. They crack me up. And so, we know that teenagers are kind of ruled by that emotion. And when we see that emotion, especially come up, and I think this is how our moms manipulated us. Well, me, I know for sure, and others that are listening, is they show like that little bit of emotion. It's like, here's a tiny little breadcrumb. And you're like, well, they gave me a breadcrumb 25 years ago.
Exactly.
They're probably going to do it again, right?
Exactly.
And that maddening is the other thing that drives you crazy, right? You're just waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting for that. And, you know, we are humans, so we can hold two complex feelings at once. And like for me, I always say, I love my mom because she had me, but my mom's a piece of shit because she, did all the things she did to me. And that's us being a human. Can you explain maybe why survivors still crave that connection from that abusive parent, even when, like, intellectually, we know that it's unsafe? So, maybe we've pulled away, we've gone no contact, low contact. Why do we go back as a result of that?
Yeah. In my opinion, it's repressed grief, right? Because we're clinging on to this false hope that they're going to change. They're going to have this coming to God moment. They're going to finally take accountability. We got that one little breadcrumb 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's what we cling on to because we're not, we don't know or
Right.
we refuse to because it's not
Right.
safe to feel your emotions because that's what
Right.
you learned your whole life. And
Right.
so you're not doing the grieving that you need to do about the mother that you never had, the mother that you wish you had, the mother that you deserved, the childhood you missed out on. And people don't do that inner work or don't even know that you can. And so it's, in my opinion, it's because that inner work hasn't been done fully yet. And so you're still going to cling on to that little piece of false hope because you haven't properly grieved the situation. And yeah, you do have to grieve someone who's still alive if the parent's still alive.
Well, and that I think is a really important thing, that you still have to grieve them, because I think that you can't get to the other side of who your mom really is. And grief is, there's the 5 stages of grief that we talk about, that Elizabeth Kubler talked about, and they're not linear. So you're going to go through denial, which is like, I can't believe this is happening. Why is my mom such a piece of shit? You're going to get really angry, which is, why is my mom such a piece of shit? This isn't fair. You're going to bargain. Well, if my mom does this, or if she does this, then it'll be okay. I can get through it. You're going to go through a stint of depression.
Yep.
And then you're going to go through that acceptance. And they don't happen in a linear fashion. They go back and forth. And I think one of the things that's really important to me is to say that you're not broken if you're going through that.
Exactly.
Like, it's totally normal. Yeah, you're
just
human.
a human. It means you're alive.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a really important thing to say. Now, you indicated earlier that it was chronic pain. I talked about, like, for me, stress, like shingles. Like, you're the first person that I've met that has gotten shingles under 50.
Wow.
Like, where, and I remember my doctor saying, you are stressed out. This is because of stress. And it wasn't because my mom I wasn't even talking to her. It was just, she was leaving messages and leaving messages and leaving messages. And I was going through it. So I think that narcissism, I think that any trauma really kind of reshapes your nervous system long term. So for us, it showed up in certain ways, but how would someone kind of see that as they're like thinking about, is my mom a narcissist? Am I in a narcissistic relationship? How can how can you tell us how this can really reshape your nervous system long term?
Yeah, I mean, if you're walking on eggshells, right, your nervous system's activated.
Right.
So it's, like with normal people, you're not even questioning anything.
Right.
Because it's normal. Like you're not Googling behavior. You're not
right.
You're not in that state of hypervigilance. You're not like always questioning yourself and stuff like that. Right. And I tell people all the time that, like, if you're not 100% sure if someone's a narcissist, don't worry about that. Stop looking at the signs. Go inwards into your emotions. Do you feel guilt, shame, or fear? I tell my clients all the time, these are the 3 musketeers, and add on to that confusion, sense of obligation. If you feel any of those things around this person, whatever you want to call them, it doesn't matter. They're bad news.
Right. Well, and that's really good, like, to help people understand that, those 3 things, and then adding those things on, because it is like, right now there's the whole like, oh, they're a narc, oh, they're toxic, like it's commonplace. And it does take a special diagnosis, which narcissists are
They don't
so
get.
rarely diagnosed.
Exactly. They don't
They
think
don't go to
anything's wrong with
therapy.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but in the DSM, there is, certain traits that they have to have. So even if they have narcissistic tendencies, or even if they're an asshole, like anything that makes you feel any of
Mm-hmm.
those things kind of spike. And for abuse like survivors, sometimes that like we bury those things down,
Of course.
are, whether or not we are going to do certain things or feel certain things. And I think for me personally, it's always in my stomach. So
Mm-hmm.
if I start, like, if we're talking about a stressful situation, if I'm in a stressful situation, my stomach always starts to hurt, like
Yep.
instantly. So there are like physiological clues for you
Yep.
to like, and we've learned to ignore them. Like that's the
Of
thing,
course. That's
right?
what the narcissist
Because,
wanted.
right, that's what she wanted. Your heart rate, oh, you're just running around. No, you're being a freak. Like this is too much. Like, why are you being like this? All of those things I think are really like important for you to like come back to as you're
Yeah.
healing. I think understanding and trusting your body.
Yes.
Right.
Your body's always talking to you.
Right. And it could be heart palpitations. It could be, you start to sweat. Mine is my stomach. It's always my guide for me.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, when you're dealing with your clients that either like operate in that hypervigilance? My hypervigilance comes out whenever there's conflict. So like I will start cleaning the house, like cleaning the counters, like one spot over and over again. I'll focus or ruminate on things. Um, or if I've had like a long day of a lot of clients, because I tend to absorb a lot of things, I will like lie on the couch and fawn and I'll just doom scroll. Right now that we have that, that's what I do. How do you help your clients understand that these things, right? Whether it's the fawning, doom scrolling, their hypervigilance, the people pleasing, are adaptations and not character flaws for them.
Yeah. So, I always bring it back to repressed emotions because
Mm-hmm,
that's what it
mm-hmm,
is, right? Like if you're fawning, you're
mm-hmm,
doing that for a reason because you're
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
repressing guilt, shame, or fear, right?
Yeah.
You're trying
Mm-hmm,
to prove yourself to the narcissist in your life. Why? Right. So it's like
yeah.
I tell my clients, you have to get curious
Mm-hmm,
about your behavior, about what you're feeling, because
mm-hmm,
any of that behavior, right? The fawning, the freezing, the fight or flight,
mm-hmm.
the perfectionism, the
Yes.
overachieving, the doom scrolling, the go, go, go all the time,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
whatever you're doing whatever you're doing, it is to
Yeah.
distract yourself from a difficult emotion. And you were
Mm-hmm,
taught at a young age that it's not safe to have these emotions. So you had
mm-hmm,
to repress them. So
mm-hmm,
you have to keep reminding yourself that it is safe to feel my emotions. And
mm-hmm,
when you
mm-hmm.
catch yourself, even if you catch yourself the next day, it's still a win
Right.
because we've gone
Yes.
decades not even
Yeah.
knowing any of this stuff.
Yes.
Right. So, like,
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
ever beat yourself up if, like, it's like, oh my God, that's what I was doing last week when
Mm-hmm.
I was ruminating. Right.
Right.
That was
Right.
distracting me from the emotion of like fear or whatever because
Right.
I was
Right.
scared that, my mom was going to yell at me or whatever it
Right.
is.
Yeah.
At least you figured it out. And the
Mm-hmm.
more that you kind of reflect on those moments, you start recognizing which emotion was repressed and why.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You start rewiring your own brain,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Because it's like you're
Yeah.
teaching your brain that I'm not going to die from feeling
Yeah.
this emotion.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the consequences of not
Mm-hmm.
feeling that emotion, right? Like
Right.
it's really, you kind of, I hate to put it this way, but like my clients or anyone wanting to heal, you kind of have to be in like a state of desperation to like not waste
Yes.
any more time on this bullshit
Yes.
in order
Yes.
for it to really stick, right? So
Right.
it's like you have to
Right.
recognize you only live once, you only have so much
Yes.
time on this planet.
Yes.
Just do
Mm-hmm.
the freaking work.
It's so funny because my husband and I were just having this conversation, just like talking about, well, what can you do to like prolong your life once you realize that you've done this? And that, like, the longer that you can say, okay, I'm going to protect my peace and this is what I'm going to do. And you don't, if you're not ready to let go of your mom, that's fine. I get it. But like,
But be ready for the consequences of that.
Right. Exactly. And for me, I was like, it is a life or death, which is why I got so mad when Oprah was like, what's the big deal? I was like, fuck you. It's life or death. Like, you don't understand. My nervous system is collapsing on top of itself. And I'm thinking that everything is a danger. And I think that's the big thing, because maybe you say to yourself, okay, well, my mom's not that bad, but it is not just the abuse that she's like giving you at this moment. It is the effects of that. So everything is danger, right? Exactly. And for me now, one of the really funny things is, because we moved a lot as a result of, my mom being bad with money, my dad being bad with money when they got a divorce. Anytime my husband moves furniture in the house, like let's just say we're just changing things around, we want to change it up, I like start to panic. And he doesn't do that often, but I start to panic, and I realized that was the click for me. I was like, okay. And now I just get frustrated. And so now I'm trying to get past the frustration to be like, no, this is our home. This is where we live. And as a result of that, we can have things however we want to.
Yeah.
So that I think for a lot of people who are going through this work, is there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You might feel like you're on fire or you're burning. Like I constantly always, like, conflict makes me feel like I'm on fire.
Yep.
Like I want to tamp it down. You will get to the other side, either by no contact. That's number one, right? Your mom's not around and you're like, okay, I'm alive, I'm good. Or perimenopause. And I say that because you're like, whatever, I don't care. Right? And the blessing is if they happen together. So if we can get them together, that's a huge thing. What do you believe is some early and gentle steps that someone can take when they're just beginning this journey? Let's say they're just starting, maybe they've gone no contact for, a month. How can they be gentle with themselves?
Yeah, I mean, just really kind of connecting with your inner child and recognizing that you had no shot in hell, right? Like, none of this was your fault. There was nothing you needed to figure out as a kid in order to prevent anything, right? Like, you were duped, you were dealt a shitty hand, and like, it's okay to let it suck. Right? Let yourself be upset about it. Let yourself feel exactly how you feel about it. Maybe don't tell a lot of people, because not that many people are going to understand. And, that's 99% of people in most cases that don't get it. And that's, again, not a character flaw on your end, right?
No, it's like, not at all.
A lot of the times it's like, if you're lucky enough to find, a coach or like a group or like a community or something that gets it, great. But not everyone has that or has access to that. And so you have to kind of become your own best friend, which can be a little intimidating. But at the end of the day, like, one day at a time, one baby step, one emotion at a time, and just focus on now. Like, don't look at the whole staircase, just look at the next step.
Right. Yeah. And I would say that, like, I'll say it again. My husband saved my life because he understood the abuse. Like, he understood the narc abuse. His narc abuse was not from his mom or his dad, who I loved to death. Like, they are fantastic. They're amazing chosen family. I am incredibly blessed. His experience was somewhere else, but he was like, your mom's a narc. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? He's like, she's the narc, and what she's doing to you is not okay. I was like, oh, okay. And that permission was a big thing. And not many people understand that. Yeah. When I say things like, I don't talk to my entire family, people like really question that.
Yep.
And they're like, well, why? I don't understand. And I'm like, my mom's a narcissist. My dad's side of the family is racist because I'm biracial. They don't understand. They were flying monkeys for my mom. I can sit and talk to you for a really long time about it, or we can just like be friends, and that's cool.
Yeah.
Right.
And they don't even bother to question, like, what did your family do to make you not talk to them? Right. Like, it's wild.
Right. well, and that's always to me the interesting thing. And like, I just had this really great conversation with my daughter because we were talking about, family politics, just the way families run and whatnot. And I said, I haven't done a good job of like teaching you that, because I'm like, okay, if you're going to be on my mom's side, peace out. Right. And so that effect does affect her. And it's something that we are learning together because we just have each other, and that's okay. And we talked about it, and she's like, okay, I totally understand it. From an intellectual standpoint, she's like, okay, I get it. I totally understand. What always this was the excuse that my grandparent, and I love my grandfather, may his like soul rest in peace. But what he and my grandmother did was, oh, she's just an immigrant. She doesn't know. I'm like, no.
Yep.
Everyone knows how to love their kid. Like, exactly. So like, let me make this clear. Like, everyone knows how to love their kid, no matter what the language. Doesn't matter, no matter where they come from. That excuse is not an okay excuse.
Exactly.
It's just not. It's not okay. Like, I can't express that enough. So any person who is experiencing this, and maybe their mom is an immigrant, and maybe that's totally okay. And she knows how to love.
Exactly. That's my mom was an immigrant too. And like, that excuse was used so much until I realized,
it drove me nuts.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where you're from. Yeah. Mothers know how to love their kids.
Yes. And it's so crazy to me. Like, it is an innate, like, very basic foundation animal experience, which is why, I called Punch's mom a narc, because like, who does that to their kid? Yeah, right? Like, that's, yeah, exactly. So why do you think like going low contact or no contact is really such a long and painful process for people?
Yeah, because that conditioning runs deep, right? It's not until decades of your life has passed that you even realize that your mom's a narcissist, or your dad, or whoever, and you're undoing however old you are, years worth of that conditioning. So a lot of people, they'll go back and forth. I did that too. Like, I would break no contact a lot with my late narcissistic mother.
Yeah.
I would go low contact, try to, put myself into a pretzel to kind of like tolerate her in certain situations. Like, it was not worth it in hindsight. Obviously, she's been dead for like 6 years now, and it's so freeing.
I know.
It's great.
Yep.
so terrible to say, but in this context, I know. Whatever.
Right. Well, and that's actually that's a good question. And I know like we hadn't discussed this, but one of the things like for me, what I see in the group that I support is like women having like issues because a lot of their moms are older. So maybe care for their mom or whatever. And I'm like, fuck it. I'm not caring for my mom. She's gonna have to figure that shit out.
Exactly.
When she goes through all this stuff. And I hate to say that because it makes me seem like, let me be very clear. I'm probably one of the most loving people that I know. And fuck her. Like, I can't express that enough.
Absolutely. And like, it's so entitled for a parent to come with this idea that, oh, I'm going to have a kid just for elder care.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and I'm going to take care of my dad because my dad, I love him to death. Yeah. It's just when I think about my mom, like the only reason why I know my mom hasn't died yet is because she has contact with my daughter. And my daughter is like, I have to say, she is 30. She's super good at like, this is my boundary. She does it with me too. If I'm like asking a little bit too much about dating or anything, she's like, Mom. And I'm like, okay, got it. Right. So she's really good at drawing that boundary for her and her grandmother. Now I've seen her cross other boundaries, and then I have a conversation with her, and then she comes back usually and says, oh my God, you're totally right. And I remember this one time, I was away for a business trip, and my mom had watched her, and my daughter was really young. She was 7 or 8, and she called me and she was in tears, and my mom was watching her. I was going to be gone for like 3 or 4 days. And she's like, Mom, all grandma is doing is talking about how horrible you are and what a horrible person you are and how much what a bad mom you are. Can you please, please, please call your best friend to come pick me up? Please. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I called my best friend at the time, who secretly also was a narcissist, but I didn't quite know that. Yep. I called her and I was like, hey, do you mind picking up my daughter? So, she's got school, but she knew that my mom was crazy too, probably because she was like, oh, she's like me. So she picked her up, and then, I was back in a day or so, and my daughter still remembers that. She's like, so she has like a different shield for her. As soon as she starts to talk about me in any fashion, she's like, nope, that's you and my mom. If you want a relationship with me, we talk about me stuff, but I'm not talking about my mom. Mm-hmm. And I'm actually like really impressed, and I'm going to tell her to listen to this podcast so that she could hear me talk about and hear how I gassed her up and how awesome she is. Cause that's a really it's a tool that I never learned, and she's learned on her own. Yeah. How do you support your clients through the grief that often comes through accepting that their mother is a piece of shit? And I'm just going to go there and say it, and who she's never going to be.
Yeah. A lot of it is just telling them what they need to hear. Like I'm sure you've observed in my content, I do not sugarcoat things. So.
No, I love it. I love it.
So people come to me for that.
Yeah.
So don't work with me if you want things sugar-coated.
But
basically like just the hard truths and radical acceptance of those hard truths, and just making space for how you feel about it, and letting yourself feel exactly how you feel, like letting it suck, letting it just be like such bullshit that this is the hand you were dealt.
Yeah, it is bullshit. Yeah.
Right? Because no one's going to give you that permission to let it suck, because we live in a society of toxic positivity of like, oh, just be positive or stop being a brat and call your mom.
Fuck you guys. Fuck you guys. That's all I have to say about that. It's so funny because I do, well, in our other work, my husband and I own a consulting firm, and we do a lot of work with like trauma-informed organizations. And one of the things we talk about is, okay, like I understand that you have learned that you can just shit all over everyone. Like that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to shit all over everyone. And that's not this organization. And I had a question from someone and they said, well, do we place intent forward or do we place impact forward? And I was like, it's impact. Like the impact of your word is huge. And we see that all the time. We see it in art. We see what stays with us is the impact. If an artist says my intent for this art is for you to feel this way, you're like, fuck you. That's not the way that I feel. The impact is this. And I think that's a really, really important thing, because oftentimes our moms will say, well, that's not what I intended when I called you fat. I was like, hello, impact, right?
Exactly.
That I think is really important. And if anyone takes that away, is for you to be able to say, okay, I intend to do this, and let me think about what my impact is going to be. Mm-hmm. And that's not an easy thing. Like at the end of the day, if you're thinking like that, you're going to be exhausted. And that's good. That's a good exhaustion to think about what your impact is going to bring. Like, I'm sure there's 1,000 people that I want to be like, hey, don't drive like an asshole. Like I could be screaming that out the window, but if I smile as they drive by, that impact's different, and maybe they might change their mind. That, I think that's really big. What do you say to people who feel selfish or are being told that they're selfish for choosing that distance?
Mm-hmm. So that's not your selfishness to feel, right? Mm-hmm. Your narcissistic parent was the selfish one for choosing to bring you in this world or adopt you or however they acquired you. You had no choice in the matter.
Right.
You don't choose to come to this shithole.
That one. Yeah. Right? That one. I want that one.
Exactly. I want that to be my mom. It does not work that way.
Yeah, exactly.
They were selfish for however they acquired you and choosing to abuse you, choosing to have a role for you. Choosing to have you as the extension of themselves, as a little mini me, as like a little puppet that they could manipulate.
Right.
And so instead of, them reflecting on that like a normal person would, they projected that selfishness onto you and made you believe that anything you do for yourself, including distancing yourself, is selfish. And at the end of the day, what people have to understand is adults are allowed to decide which other adults they want to associate with or not. Relatives included.
Right. We have agency. We have agency.
Exactly.
That's the big thing.
And no one's entitled to accessing you.
No. And, that's a really big thing. I think that, I don't know if you have kids.
No.
I often,
yeah.
I love my 4 kids. I love them to death. And, it's just so expensive and all those things. Right. But I know for me, I could have chosen to go down the same path. I could have hurt because I hurt. Yep. And I have confessed that I definitely was a yeller with my daughter when she was younger. But for me, that was just immaturity. I didn't know how to express those feelings with a frustration or whatever was going on. And once I did, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that I was yelling at you all the time. And we've had real good discussions about that. Amazing. Because, the process to be able to process information. And quite frankly, I think that my mom probably created these bombs in my head.
Yeah.
To then create another child that was going to be exactly like that, and then be subservient to her and the whole thing, which thank goodness that she's not. But I think that, it's never too late to change your mind. That's number one. I always say that. I say that all the time. And it's never too late to say, I'm sorry. Exactly. And I'm going to tell our listeners a hint. When you say I'm sorry, it's just, I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Nothing else.
Exactly. Narcissists continue it on with
right,
blah, blah,
right,
blah, blah,
right.
If you can even weasel an I'm sorry out of them. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And anybody who says more than I'm sorry is not saying I'm sorry because they hurt you. Exactly. They're saying I'm sorry because they feel some kind of way because they hurt you.
Exactly.
And that's not the way to do it, Exactly. And how do you think that healing from a narcissistic abusive relationship can change the way people show up in relationships or at work or like in parenting, like we were just talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it changes you for the better, right? Like you're not as trusting of people, which can sound like a bad thing, but no one's entitled to your trust. It's something that's earned, right? And I feel like a lot of us that were raised by narcissists, we just willy-nilly
here you go
to the wind.
Yeah.
I trust you with everything, and
right
backfires. So you show up with more discernment and more presence, and you're not like hoping, oh my God, we're going to be best friends or whatever. Right. It's more so you're like in that observer mode, and like in a less of a codependent kind of way, if that makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense. And one of the things that I've really come to terms with, and you've probably seen a lot of your clients come to terms with, I've seen our clients do the same, is what do you think becomes possible when someone truly internalizes that it wasn't their fault?
Anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
They can just get so many opportunities in life, because you're not going to feel like you don't deserve anything good in life. You're going to go for better opportunities. You're not going to be wasting time with people that are just draining you and sabotaging any success that you could have.
And that's a huge thing. I think for a lot of narcissistic abuse survivors, no matter where they are in their surviving or their healing, there is so much time that's wasted.
Yes.
Because of that. And that was what your mom wanted. Like, exactly. I can't express that. That's because she wanted you to come back to her. She wanted you to waste time. She wanted you to suffer. Whatever it was, she wanted that. And that's that I think is the really interesting thing. Exactly. As we wrap up, and you think about the survivors that you've helped, or you think about people who you might be able to help, what gives you the most hope when working with any survivors?
The fact that they even reach out for help to begin with, right? Like if you're not open to the help to begin with, there's no hope, right? But if you're actually showing up for yourself, that tells me that there's at least a little bit of you that loves yourself enough to know that something's not right here, and I need to do something for myself. And that's the biggest gift you can give yourself, is just getting the right support from whoever the right person is, not necessarily me in every case, right? I'm not for everyone, but just getting that support is a huge gift to yourself, and learning how to be your own healer, basically, because you have all the answers at the end of the day.
Well, and that's one of the things I find really interesting about the healing community is like just like a therapist or a doctor or whatever, you're going to need someone who you feel comfortable with. That I'm not always going to be that person. And I'm okay with that. Like I don't get hurt about that. Like
Totally.
I'm like, okay, here's like 10 other people that we've either had on the podcast or that I'm, connected to in Instagram. Go to someone there. That like all I care about is that healing part.
Exactly.
Because ultimately, like if you're healing, then the world, every healing person, the world becomes a better place.
Exactly.
What's one thing that you want people to remember or think about when they think about like this podcast or what we're saying? Like what's one piece of information that you want them to leave with?
It wasn't your fault. Right? You had no choice. You were forced into this situation. You had no idea what was going on. And the fact that you found out, right? And like, I don't care how old you are, you figured it out in this lifetime.
Right.
And that's all that matters.
That's huge. That I think is a really beautiful thing. And I think for any person who's experiencing narcissistic abuse, whether it's familial or romantic or whatever it is, it isn't your fault. And it doesn't matter when you find out. If you find out, there's one person who I had on the podcast who's a friend, she 33 years into marriage, she figured it out.
Yeah.
And she was like, all right, peace out. Yeah, she figured it out. We're going to put in the show notes how to get a hold of you, how to connect with you on Instagram, how to get your work. But I just want to say thank you for being my, one of my sisters in healing and breaking the cycle. I can't thank you enough for being here. I've absolutely loved getting to know you and would love to have you back on. Because narcissism is never going to end. So we have tons of stuff to talk about. So thank you.
I'd love to come back. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
So much for being here with me today and for naming things so clearly in our community. The way you talk about rebuilding self-trust and showing up with discernment, it really matters more than you know. If this episode resonated with you, make sure that you follow the podcast so you don't miss what's coming up next. And if you know someone who is still trying to make sense of what they went through, send this to them. It might be the thing that finally helps them.
Thank you for listening to the Beyond Mommy Dearest podcast. You're not broken, you adapted. Healing from a narcissistic mother is real, possible, and you never have to do it with shame. I'm your host, Nolani Pearl Hernandez, and until next time, take gentle care of yourself.
Your skin is a part of your nervous system, and taking care of it is essential to overall balance. Our products are specifically formulated to nourish your skin and bring you closer to homeostasis with every use. Start feeling better in your body today with the Happy Cannabis.